The siren's wail sliced through the humid Alabama night like a knife through flesh, pinning Anthony Ramirez to the cracked sidewalk outside the Rusty Nail diner. "Faggot," the cop sneered, his boot grinding into the rainbow sticker peeled from Anthony's backpack, the word hanging heavier than the summer storm clouds gathering overhead. In that frozen heartbeat, as the cruiser's lights painted the world in pulsing red and blue, Anthony's world cracked open. Not with rage, but with the raw ache of a boy who'd fought too long to stand tall. Anthony's sneakers scraped against the gravel as he backed away, heart hammering like a trapped bird against his ribs. The cop, Officer Harlan Tate, badge gleaming under the street lamp, loomed over him, all 6'4" of Southern lawman swagger, his mustache twitching with that fake pity people mistook for righteousness. It was supposed to be just another shift at the diner. Slinging hash browns to truckers, dodging grease splatters, and stealing glances at the new line cook, Elias, whose laugh could melt the frost off a winter window pane. But Anthony had lingered too long after closing, chatting with Elias about nothing and everything. The way the fireflies danced like tiny queer flags in the backyard, or how Nirvana's Come As You Are felt like a secret anthem for kids like them, hiding in plain sight. "You think this is a game, boy?" Tate's voice was gravel wrapped in drawl, the kind that echoed through generations of small-town enforcers who'd never questioned the lines they drew in the dirt. He'd pulled up unannounced, spotting the sticker Anthony had slapped on his bag that afternoon, a defiant little flag of pride he'd ordered online after his first kiss with Elias under the bleachers at last week's football game. The kiss that tasted like stolen freedom and peppermint gum. Now, Tate's gloved hand snatched the backpack from Anthony's shoulder, rifling through it like it held contraband instead of dog-eared comics and a half-eaten Snickers. Anthony swallowed hard, the metallic tang of fear coating his tongue. "It's just a sticker, sir. Doesn't hurt nobody." His voice came out steadier than he felt, honed from years of navigating the minefield of Millwood High, where the jocks called him Princess in the halls, and the teachers pretended not to hear. At 17, Anthony had learned to armor himself with sarcasm and smiles. But tonight, with Elias's shift ending soon and the promise of a late-night walk home hand in hand, he wasn't braced for this. Tate chuckled, low and mean, crumpling the sticker in his fist. "Hurts the eyes, that's what. We got standards here in Millwood. Folks like you. You parade around, confusing good boys." He tossed the bag back, but not before accidentally knocking Anthony's water bottle into the gutter, where it bobbed like a drowned soldier. Anthony knelt to fish it out, cheeks burning, when the diner door banged open behind him. "Hey, leave him alone." Elias's voice cut through the tension, raw and fierce. He was 20, with ink-black hair tied back in a ponytail and arms corded from hauling fryers, his apron still dusted with flour. Elias had moved to Millwood from Atlanta 6 months ago, chasing a fresh start after his own coming out imploded his family. He'd spotted Anthony from the window, the way the kid's shoulders hunched like he was bracing for a storm. Tate turned, sizing Elias up with a smirk. "And who's this? Your knight in shining armor, fairy boy?" The slur landed like a slap, but Elias didn't flinch. He stepped forward, placing a hand on Anthony's arm, warm, steady, the kind of touch that whispered, "I've got you," without words. For a split second, Anthony leaned into it, the world narrowing to that point of contact, a lifeline in the chaos. But Tate wasn't done. He jabbed a finger at Elias. "You two think you're invisible? Stirring up trouble in my town." The radio on his belt crackled, some dispatch about a fender bender across town. But Tate ignored it, his face reddening under the brim of his hat. Anthony's mind raced. Call Dad? Run? But Joseph Ramirez was 3 hours away in Birmingham, buried in another double shift at the auto plant. The man who'd raised him single-handed since Mom's cancer took her 5 years back. Joseph, with his faded army jacket and stories of Nam that he told in whispers over beers on the porch, had always said, "Pride ain't given, son. It's earned one stand at a time." Before Anthony could decide, Tate's hand clamped on his shoulder, squeezing hard enough to bruise. "Get in the car. We're taking a ride to the station. Teach you some respect." Elias surged forward, but Anthony shook his head. "No, don't make it worse." The cruiser's door yawned open like a maw, and as Anthony slid in, the weight of Tate's laugh followed him, a chain around his neck. The drive was a blur of sodium-lit streets and country radio crooning about lost loves, Tate's monologue droning on about traditional values and how kids these days were ruining everything. Anthony stared out the window, tracing the familiar landmarks. The old oak by the library where he'd carved his initials with a crush in 8th grade. The Baptist church with its God Bless America banner flapping like a warning. Millwood wasn't big. 8,000 souls squeezed between pine forests and the Chattahoochee River. But it felt like a cage tonight, bars forged from whispers and sideways glances. At the station, a squat brick building that smelled of stale coffee and regret, Tate marched him inside. The desk sergeant, an older guy with a paunch and kind eyes, looked up from his crossword. "What's this, Harlan?" "Loitering with intent," Tate barked, shoving Anthony toward a bench. "And indecent exposure of whatever this is." He waved the crumpled sticker like evidence in a murder trial. Anthony sat, knees bouncing, texting Elias under the table. "I'm okay. Don't come. Love you." The reply buzzed back instantly. "Bullshit. On my way." Minutes stretched like taffy. Tate paced, muttering about paperwork, but Anthony caught the glint in his eye, the thrill of power, unchecked. It reminded him of Coach Harlan, no relation, thank God, from gym class, who'd accidentally paired him with the biggest bullies during dodgeball. But this was worse. This was the law weaponized. Then the door to the back offices swung open, and in walked Joseph Ramirez. Not with guns blazing, but with the quiet storm of a man who'd stared down napalm and lived. He was 52, broad-shouldered under his flannel shirt, salt and pepper hair cropped military short, a duffel bag slung over one shoulder like he'd driven straight from work. How he'd gotten there so fast. Anthony didn't know, didn't care. Dad's eyes locked on his son, scanning for damage, and in that gaze was everything. Apology for the miles between them, fury banked like embers, and love fierce as a foxhole prayer. "Joseph," the desk sergeant straightened. "What brings you?" But Joseph ignored him, striding to Anthony. "Son." One word, rough as sandpaper, but it wrapped around Anthony like a blanket. He stood, and they embraced, quick, hard, the kind of hug that said you're safe now without fanfare. Tate stepped forward, all bluster. "Mr. Ramirez, your boy's in a heap of—" "Shut your mouth, Harlan." Joseph's voice was steel, low and lethal. He'd known Tate since the man was a snot-nosed deputy, back when Joseph volunteered at the VFW hall. Tate faltered, the color draining from his face. Joseph turned to Anthony, hand on his shoulder, and then he did it. Snapped a salute, crisp as the day he'd shipped out in '68, eyes shining with unshed tears. "Sergeant First Class Anthony Ramirez, reporting for duty. You've held the line, soldier. I'm proud." The room went still. Anthony's throat tightened, the salute hitting him like sunlight after rain. A restoration, bone deep. Tate slunk back, mumbling about misunderstandings. But the damage was done, flipped on its head. Pride, Joseph had said, earned. And in that moment, with his father's hand steady on his back and Elias's text lighting up his phone, here, outside, Anthony felt it bloom unbreakable. But that was just the spark. The real fire was coming. The kind that would test every bond, scorch old wounds, and force Anthony to choose between the boy he loved and the man who'd shaped him. Millwood's secrets ran deep, like roots under red clay, and Tate's mockery was only the first crack in the facade. Joseph drove him home in the old Ford pickup, the engine rumbling like a lullaby. Heard from Elias. Kids got fire. Joseph glanced over, a rare smile cracking his weathered face. "Like you." Anthony nodded, staring at the dashboard stars reflected in the windshield. "Dad, why'd you salute me like that?" Joseph's hands tightened on the wheel. "Because you're fighting a war I never had to name, and every soldier deserves honor." He paused, the miles ticking by. "Your ma would have loved seeing you stand tall. She always said you had her heart, fierce and open." Tears pricked Anthony's eyes, The mention of Mama a ghost that still warmed the cab. Isabella Ramirez had been the dreamer, with her vinyl records of Joan Baez and her garden of sunflowers that bowed to no storm. Cancer had stolen her slow, leaving Joseph to stitch their world back together with calloused hands and quiet resolve. Anthony had come out to him at 14, trembling over breakfast tacos, expecting thunder. Instead, Joseph had set down his coffee and said, "You're my boy. That's the only label that counts." But words were easy. Living them in Millwood was the battlefield. They pulled into the gravel drive of their shotgun house on Elm Street, porch light flickering like a beacon. Elias waited on the steps, hands shoved in his pockets, relief flooding his face as Anthony hopped out. "You good?" Elias pulled him into a hug, Joseph's nod approving from the truck. "Yeah, Dad." He saluted me. Anthony's voice cracked, and Elias's arms tightened, a promise in the squeeze. Joseph killed the engine, joining them. "Elias, right? Thanks for having his back." He extended a hand, and Elias shook it, the moment charged with unspoken alliance. Two men, worlds apart, united by one kid's light. Inside, over lukewarm coffee, they talked, not the surface stuff but the marrow. Elias shared how his Atlanta family had cut him off after Pride last year, leaving him to bus tables and rebuild. "Felt like starting over in a foreign country," he said, eyes on Anthony. Joseph listened, then pulled out an old photo from his wallet. Him and his army buddy, Tommy, arms slung around each other in fatigues, grins wide under a Vietnamese sun. "Tommy was more than a friend. Saved my life twice. Never said it aloud till now." The admission hung, heavy and healing, a bridge across generations. As Elias left with a stolen kiss on the cheek, Anthony lay awake, the night's adrenaline fading into questions. Tate's face, twisted in defeat. Would that be the end? Or just the beginning of something uglier? Little did he know, the cop's grudge was a lit fuse, and Joseph's past held shadows that could engulf them all. Dawn broke over Millwood like a hesitant apology. Pink streaks bleeding into the sky as Anthony pedaled to school. The sting of last night's bruise a dull throb under his sleeve. The high school loomed at the edge of town, a brick behemoth with a football field scarred from glory days, and Anthony chained his bike with the wariness of a soldier entering no man's land. Whispers followed him down the hall. Heard Ramirez got hauled in. Cops think he's some kinda activist freak. From Brittany Hayes, Queen Bee with her peroxide curls and Daddy's credit card. Anthony kept his head high, backpack slung low, the ghost of his father's salute a shield against the barbs. First period English, Mrs. Hargrove droned on about the Great Gatsby, the green light a metaphor for unreachable dreams. Anthony doodled rainbows in his notebook, his mind drifting to Elias. They'd texted till 2 a.m. Silly stuff like ranking pizza toppings. Pineapple. Yes, fight me, but laced with "I miss you already and you're braver than you know." Elias worked the lunch rush today, and Anthony's shift started after school. The diner would be their neutral ground, a bubble where the world couldn't touch. But at lunch, the bubble burst. Jocks at the corner table, led by Tyler Grant, All-American quarterback with a jaw like chiseled granite, started chanting under their breath. "Ramirez loves the Rainbow Road." Laughter rippled, forks clinking like judgments. Anthony sat alone with his tray, pretending to scroll his phone, but his appetite soured. Then Tyler sauntered over, tray in hand, plunking down across from him. "Heard you had a date with Officer Tate last night. He say hi." The table nearby hushed, sensing blood. Anthony met Tyler's eyes, blue, cold as a winter creek. They'd been friends once, in Little League, before Tyler's dad caught them holding hands behind the dugout at 12. "Something like that," Anthony replied, voice even. "You jealous?" Tyler leaned in, breath hot with ranch dressing. "Nah, just warning you, folks talk. And Tate? He's got friends in high places. Your old man's plant job? Could dry up quick if you keep waving flags." The threat landed soft, but it burrowed deep. Joseph's overtime funded Anthony's college dreams, community college first, then maybe art school in Atlanta, where rainbows weren't whispers. Anthony shoved his tray away, standing. Tell Tate to worry about his own closet. He walked out, lunch uneaten, the cafeteria's roar swallowing his footsteps. In the bathroom, he splashed water on his face, staring at the mirror. Hazel eyes like his mama's, now shadowed with doubt. Pride earned. But what if the cost was too high? School dragged, a gauntlet of averted eyes and stifled snickers. By final bell, Anthony bolted to the diner, the screen door slapping behind him like punctuation. The place was a time capsule. Checkered floors sticky with decades of spills, jukebox crooning Johnny Cash, and the sizzle of burgers a constant hymn. Elias was behind the counter, flipping patties with a grin that lit the room. Hero of the hour, he teased, sliding Anthony a milkshake. Extra cherry, just how he liked. They stole moments between orders, Elias's fingers brushing Anthony's as he passed a napkin. A shared glance over the pass-through that said this is worth it. But midway through the rush, the bell jingled, and in walked Harlan Tate. Not in uniform, civilian jeans and a polo that strained over his gut, but the authority clung like smoke. He slid into a booth, menu up, but his eyes tracked Anthony like a hawk. Regular, Tate grunted when Elias approached. Anthony busied himself at the coffee station, ears straining. Heard about last night. Ramirez Sr. pulling rank? Classic. Tate's tone was oily, probing. Elias kept it light. Just a misunderstanding. Coffee black. Tate leaned back. Misunderstanding? That boy's trouble. Stirring up. Unnatural business. You involved. The question hung, a hook baited with implication. Elias's jaw tightened, but he poured steady. Just doing my job, sir. As Tate ate, slow, deliberate, Anthony felt the air thicken. When the cop paid, he dropped a 10 and a card on the table. Community watch. Call if you see anything. Off. His gaze lingered on Anthony, then Elias, the card a gauntlet thrown. After closing, they walked the river path, fireflies winking like conspirators. Elias's hand found Anthony's, lacing fingers in the dark. Ignore him. He's a bully with a badge. But Anthony's grip was tight, the threat from Tyler echoing Tate's shadow. What if he's right? Dad's hanging by a thread at the plant. One word from Tate's buddies. Elias stopped, turning Anthony to face him under a willow's drape. Moonlight silvered his features, making him look like a painting, Rembrandt with tattoos. Then we fight smarter. Together. He cupped Anthony's face, thumb tracing his jaw, and kissed him soft, lingering, the world fading to the taste of salt and promise. Anthony melted into it, the romance a balm, but doubt lingered like river mist. Home was quiet, Joseph in his recliner with a beer and the game muted. Rough day. He patted the armrest, and Anthony sank in, spilling the cafeteria showdown, Tate's visit. Joseph's face hardened, but his voice stayed level. Tate's always been a snake, but snakes bite their own tails eventually. He ruffled Anthony's hair, a gesture from toddler days. You and Elias serious? Anthony flushed. Yeah, he gets it. Like you do. Joseph nodded, eyes distant. Good. Hold on to that. I let go once, Tommy. After the war, letters stopped. Never knew why till his sister wrote years later. He passed alone, ashamed. The confession cracked open old scars, Joseph's hand trembling on the remote. Don't let fear steal your story, son. That night, Anthony dreamed of salutes and shadows, waking to a text from an unknown number. Watch your back, queer. Tate's watching. Heart pounding, he deleted it, but the chill settled deep. Millwood's underbelly was stirring, and betrayal brewed not from strangers, but from those closest, friends turned foes, loves tested by fire. The weekend brought fragile normalcy. A VFW barbecue where Joseph introduced Anthony to grizzled vets who clapped him on the back, sharing war stories laced with quiet admissions of lost comrades, loves unspoken. Elias tagged along, fitting in with his easy charm, trading barbs with the old-timers over ribs and Bud Light. Your boy's got spirit, one silver-haired sergeant told Joseph, winking at Anthony. For hours, it felt like armor, community, hard won. But Sunday evening shattered it. Tyler Grant showed up at the house, knocking with feigned casualness. "Forgot to return this," he said, holding out Anthony's forgotten hoodie from gym class. Joseph was at the plant. Anthony let him in, wary. In the kitchen, over Cokes, Tyler's mask slipped. "Look, man, Tate cornered me after practice. Said if I didn't feed you lines, he'd tell Coach about that party last summer. You know, the one with the beer." Anthony's stomach dropped. The party. Tyler, drunk and curious. A fumbling kiss in the shadows that neither spoke of after. "You sold me out? For what, your golden arm?" Tyler's eyes darted. "It's not like that. He's got dirt on everyone. Elias too. Something from Atlanta." Betrayal hit like a sucker punch. The hoodie crumpling in Anthony's fist. Tyler bolted, leaving poison in the air. Confronting Elias that night at the diner, Anthony's voice shook. "Tyler said Tate's digging into your past. What aren't you telling me?" Elias paled, wiping his hands on his apron. "It's nothing, old beef with my ex's family. They pressed charges once, dropped him, but Tate could twist it." His eyes pleaded, but doubt festered. Was this love, or another cage? As thunder rumbled outside, Anthony walked home alone. Rain soaking through, the first threads of their bond fraying under the storm. Rain hammered the tin roof of the Ramirez house like accusations, each drop a reminder of fractures widening. Anthony paced the living room, phone clutched like a grenade. Elias's last text unread. "Talk tomorrow? Please." But tomorrow felt like a luxury, with Tate's shadow lengthening and Tyler's betrayal a fresh wound. Joseph found him there at midnight, dripping from a pointless walk, and pulled 2 chairs to the table scarred by years of meals and mending. "Spill it, son." Joseph's voice was anchor steady, pouring them both herbal tea, Isabella's recipe, chamomile laced with honey. Anthony unloaded. The threat, Tyler's flip, the gnawing fear that Elias hid more than he shared. Joseph's face was a map of empathy, lines etched by loss. Betrayal's the coward's weapon. But it don't define you, how you rise does. They talked till the storm broke, Joseph sharing fragments of his own ghosts. How Tommy's silence after the war wasn't rejection, but shame from a military that demanded closets over coffins. Wrote him letters I never sent. Biggest regret. He squeezed Anthony's shoulder. "Write yours. To Elias. Truth cuts clean." Morning brought school like a sentence, hallways buzzing with amplified rumors. Tate had leaked the arrest to the local paper. A blurb buried in the obits. Local youth detained for disorderly conduct. Anthony's locker was vandalized. FAG scrawled in marker. And Mrs. Hargrove pulled him aside after class. "If you're struggling, there's counseling." Her tone dripped pity, not pride. Lunch was solitary, but then Mia Lopez, goth girl with a nose ring and a crush on half the debate team, slid in beside him. "Ignore the hyenas. Tyler's full of shit. I heard him bragging to Tate's kid sister about handling you." Mia was an ally out since freshman year, her parents the rare liberal transplants from California. "Elias called me last night. He's scared, not hiding." Anthony's resolve cracked. After school, he biked to the diner, finding Elias in the alley, stacking crates, sweat beading on his brow. "I should have told you sooner," Elias started, dropping a box with a thud. "My ex, Derek, Atlanta PD buddy of his, framed me for theft after I left. Charges dropped, but the record lingers. Tate sniffed it out, called me this morning. Threatened to reopen it unless I distance myself." The admission hung, raw. Anthony's anger deflated into ache. "For me? Why didn't you fight?" Elias stepped close, hands hovering before cupping Anthony's face. "Because losing you would kill me faster than any badge." Their kiss was desperate, rain fresh and urgent, bodies pressing against the brick wall as if to merge wounds. It was romance reborn in vulnerability, the kind that whispered we're flawed, but we're ours. "Run with me," Elias murmured against his lips. "To Birmingham. Your dad's got connections, new start." Temptation bloomed, but Anthony pulled back. Dad needs me here. And running, that's Tate's win. They held each other as the sun dipped, planning instead. Document everything. Loop in Mia's lawyer aunt. Build a paper trail. Hope flickered, fragile as a match. But Tate escalated that week. Joseph's foreman called a tip about union agitation. Joseph's name flagged for review. Bills piled. Anthony's art supplies cut. Elias picking up doubles. Tension coiled like a spring. Then, the VFW Hall event. A fundraiser for veteran scholarships. Joseph's baby. Anthony volunteered, manning the raffle table with Elias, their hands brushing under the banner strung with dog tags. Tate showed, in dress blues, schmoozing donors with a plastic smile. He cornered Joseph by the punch bowl. Heard about the plant. Tough times. Joseph's jaw set. Mind your lane, Harlan. Oh, I am. Just looking out for Millwood's finest. Tate's eyes slid to Anthony, laughing with Elias across the room. Your boy's influence. Spreading. Joseph's fist clenched, but he walked away, finding Anthony later. He's baiting us. Don't bite. Yet the seed was planted. Doubt about Elias, whispers from old friends. That cooks trouble, Joe. Atlanta boys got a rep. Friday night climaxed at the homecoming dance. Jim strung with streamers, bass thumping through fogged windows. Anthony went stag, Elias working late, but Mia dragged him onto the floor for a defiant twirl to Wannabe. Tyler lurked by the bleachers, drunk on smuggled whiskey, and when Anthony passed for punch, he lunged, fist flying, grazing Anthony's cheek. Stay away from him. Chaos erupted. Chaperones swarming, Tyler dragged out bellowing slurs. But in the melee, Anthony overheard Tate, stationed as security, murmuring into his radio. Kids unhinged. Blame the boyfriend. Elias arrived then, bursting through the doors, apron discarded, eyes wild. He pulled Anthony aside, ice from the cooler pressed to the swelling. I quit tonight. We're leaving tomorrow. Anthony's heart tore. And Dad? The plant. Elias's face crumpled. I can't watch you break. The kiss that followed was salt-tinged. Goodbye woven in. But Anthony clung, the music swelling around them like a dirge. Saturday dawned accusatory. Joseph found the packed duffel in Anthony's room. Elias waiting in his beat-up Civic down the block. You leaving? Joseph's voice was quiet thunder. Not without you understanding. Anthony's plea cracked. Tate's destroying us. Elias is my future. Joseph sank onto the bed, head in hands. I know that fight, son. Ran from it once with Tommy. Ended up regretting the miles, not the man. He looked up, eyes glistening. But pride ain't running. It's standing, with who you love. Yes, but roots intact. The argument raged, voices rising like the Chattahoochee in flood. Anthony stormed out, finding Elias in the car, engine idling. Drive, he said, sliding in, tears hot. They peeled away, Millwood shrinking in the rear view, Joseph's silhouette on the porch a fading sentinel. Miles blurred into silence, Atlanta's skyline a distant promise. But at a gas station stop, Anthony's phone buzzed. A voicemail from Mia. Tate's arrested for planting evidence on Joseph. Tyler confessed everything. Your dad's leading the charge at the VFW. Come back. Betrayal reversed. Tate's web unraveling from within, his own kin turning. Elias pulled over, hands shaking on the wheel. We go back. Together. Anthony nodded. The road ahead no longer escape, but reckoning. Love wasn't flight. It was the courage to turn, face the storm, and emerge scarred but whole. The drive back to Millwood was a pilgrimage in reverse, the Ford's headlights cutting through twilight like second thoughts. Anthony gripped Elias's knee, the bruise on his cheek a purple badge under the dashboard glow. Radio static gave way to gospel hour, a choir's harmony underscoring the gravity. They'd chosen roots over wings, love over exile. What if it's too late? Anthony whispered, voicing the fear that clawed his gut. Elias's thumb traced circles on his thigh. Then we plant new ones, side by side. His voice held the quiet conviction of someone who'd rebuilt from ashes. And in that touch, Anthony found ballast. They arrived past curfew, the Ramirez house dark save for the porch light, Joseph's signal always on. Joseph waited inside, coffee brewing, his army jacket draped over the chair like armor donned. No recriminations. Just a nod as they entered, Elias hanging back like a supplicant. Mia's aunt filed the complaint, Joseph said, pouring mugs. Tate's suspended pending IA. Tyler's grounded till college, spilling more than beans. Turns out Harlan's been shaking down half the town for years. Queers, union men, anyone who didn't salute his flag. Relief washed over Anthony, mingled with shame for doubting. Dad, I'm sorry. For running. Joseph waved it off, eyes softening on Elias. Brought him back. That's the win. He extended a hand. Welcome to the fray, son. Elias shook it, the grip lingering, a pact sealed. They talked strategy till dawn. Statements to the DA, VFW petition for Joseph's plant job, a quiet alliance with Mia's network of out kids and allies. It was human at its core. Flawed folks banding against the machine, not with pitchforks but persistence. Monday's school was a different beast. Rumors flipped. Tate the villain, Anthony the survivor. Mia high-fived him in the hall, her eyeliner smudged with victory tears. You started a ripple, Ramirez. Tyler avoided him, head down, but slipped a note in his locker. Sorry. Forgiveness wasn't instant, but Anthony pocketed it, a seed for later. At the diner, Elias rehired by the owner. A gruff Korean vet who'd lost a son to don't ask, don't tell. Customers trickled in with apologies masked as tips. Heard about Tate. Good on you boys. Whispers of support, once silent, now voiced. Romance bloomed in stolen shifts. Elias sneaking Anthony into the walk-in for flower-dusted kisses, planning their first real date. A picnic by the river, no shadows. But conflict simmered. Joseph's plant reinstated him, but with whispers. Watch your back, Ramirez. Tate's got pull. And Elias's past resurfaced. An Atlanta detective calling, verifying the dropped charges. Tate's fingerprints on the smear attempt. Nights, Anthony lay awake, Elias's arm heavy across his waist during sleepovers. Chaste, Joseph's rules firm but fair, wondering if love could weather vendettas. The climax brewed at the town hall meeting, called to address community concerns post-Tate. Millwood Civic Center was packed. Farmers in overalls, teachers with clipboards, the VFW contingent in berets. Joseph spoke first, voice steady as a drum. My son's pride ain't a threat, it's a promise. Harlan Tate mocked it, but he forgot. Real strength salutes the vulnerable. Cheers erupted, vets standing in ovation. Anthony followed, heart in throat, Elias's hand squeezing his under the table. I'm gay, and I'm here, not hiding, not hurting, just living. The room held breath, then applause, thunderous, transformative. Tate lurked in the back, reinstated on desk duty, his glare venomous. As the meeting broke, he cornered Elias outside. You think this ends it? I'll bury you both. Elias's fist balled, but Anthony stepped between. Touch him, and you face us all. Tate laughed, slinking away, but the threat echoed. That night, betrayal struck deepest. Tyler called, voice slurred. Tate's coming for you, tonight. Said he's got proof, something from your dad's war records. Twisted. Panic surged. Joseph dug out his footlocker, yellowed letters spilling. Tommy's handwriting, frantic pleas post-discharge. They'll court-martial me if they find out. One read. Tate had somehow gotten wind, blackmail fodder to discredit Joseph. Elias rallied. We go public. Now. They drove to the local news station, a mom-and-pop outfit in a strip mall, spilling the story to a wide-eyed reporter, Lena Voss, out herself with a scar from similar fights. This town's ready, she said, camera rolling. By morning, the clip aired. Millwood cops vendetta targets veteran dad. Gay son. Backlash hit Tate like a freight train. IA reopened, his badge yanked. But in the fallout, Elias confessed more. Derek, my ex, he's Tate's cousin. That's the real hook. Atlanta ties. The revelation stung, a betrayal by bloodlines, but Anthony saw it clear. Not Elias's fault, but fate's cruel knot. They untangled it together. Joseph's letters donated anonymously to a queer history archive. Tommy's memory honored. Romance deepened in the quiet. Elias sketching Anthony's portrait by lamplight, capturing the fire in his eyes. Anthony reading poetry aloud, Whitman's Leaves of Grass a vow. Yet climax peaked one stormy evening. Tate, unhinged, showed at the house. Drunk, gun drawn, ranting about defending decency. "You ruined me," he bellowed, kicking the door. Joseph met him on the porch, unarmed, voice calm. "War's over, Harlan. Put it down." Anthony and Elias flanked from the sides, phones recording. Tate wavered, barrel drooping, tears streaking his face. I lost my boy to this city, to people like you. His son, out and estranged, the irony bitter. In that breakdown, humanity pierced the monster, a man broken by his own hate. Cops, real ones, uncorrupted, arrived, Tate cuffed and led away. No shots, no blood, just the rain washing clean. In the aftermath, Anthony held Elias on the porch swing, Joseph's silhouette in the door. "We won," Anthony breathed. "Not won," Joseph corrected, joining them. "Endured. That's the real salute." Healing in Millwood came slow, like kudzu reclaiming a fence. Tendrils of change weaving through the cracks. Tate's arrest made headlines beyond the county line. The clip going viral on social media. Rainbow filters overlaying comments. Pride salute trending. Anthony's phone buzzed with messages from strangers, "You're brave," and locals alike. The grocery clerk slipping him free apples. The librarian stocking more queer lit. But glory faded fast. The real work was mending the intimate fractures. Joseph's plant job stabilized, overtime flowing again. But he carried the weight visibly. Shoulders rounded, eyes distant during dinner. One night, over Isabella's enchiladas, he set down his fork. Those letters. Airing them felt like burying Tommy twice. Anthony reached across, hand on his. Or resurrecting him. "Dad, you gave him voice." Elias nodded, ever the bridge. "My pops was military too. Never talked feelings." "You're rewriting that script, Mr. R." Joseph grunted approval, but later, Anthony found him on the porch, staring at fireflies, a half-smoked cigar glowing. "Proud of you, son, but scared too. This world's still got teeth." Anthony sat beside him, the wood creaking under their weight. "Then we sharpen ours. Together, father and son, silhouetted against the stars, shared silence thick with legacy. The army grunt and the artist boy, bound by battles named and unnamed. School shifted subtly. GSA club reformed. Mia president. Anthony vice with Elias as faculty advisor. He'd enrolled in night classes for teaching cert. Tyler transferred out but sent a care package, Nirvana vinyl, a note. Learning late. Thanks for the mirror. Forgiveness wasn't erasure, but Anthony kept the record spinning. A reminder that people could pivot. Romance with Elias flowered in the everyday poetry. Dawn runs along the river, where mist clung like lover's breath. Lazy Sundays sketching in the backyard. Elias's pencil tracing Anthony's collarbone. Non-sensual but intimate as dawn. "You're my muse?" Elias murmured, smudging graphite on Anthony's nose. Laughter bubbled, light after storm, but depth lingered. Conversations on future. Atlanta apartments or Birmingham co-ops. Joseph's blessing a given. Yet conflict resurfaced in whispers. Tate's trial loomed, 6 months out, subpoenas pulling them into depositions. Lena Voss interviewed Anthony for a follow-up. "How's pride feel now?" He paused, camera rolling. "Like a muscle sore, but stronger." But privately, doubts crept. Was this victory or intermission? Elias's Atlanta ghost stirred when Derek called, apologetic, offering testimony against Tate. "I was wrong. Family's not blood. It's choice." Elias hung up, shaken, and Anthony held him through the night, rocking like a lullaby. "You're my family," Anthony vowed, the words a seal. The human element shone at the VFW's Pride Night. A first, Joseph's idea. Vets in fatigues mingled with drag queens from the city, stories swapped over potluck. A sergeant's tale of barracks romances. A performer's lip sync to Over the Rainbow drawing tears. Anthony emceed, voice steady. "Tonight, we salute all who've served, in uniform, in shadows, in love." Elias watched from the wings, eyes shining, and when Anthony stepped down, he pulled him into a slow dance, the room cheering. But betrayal's echo came via anonymous mail. Tate's manifesto, smuggled from jail, railing against the Ramirez plague. It detailed Joseph's deviant letters, twisting Tommy's memory into slander. The postmark? Local. Someone close, a VFW holdout, perhaps, or plant rival. Joseph burned it in the sink, flames licking the words. "Hate dies quiet," he said, but sleep evaded, nightmares of Tate's gun returning. Climax built to the trial, Millwood Courthouse, a tinderbox. Anthony testified first, recounting the diner night, Tate's boot on the sticker, a symbol, not just vinyl. "He tried to crush my pride. But pride's not crushable. It's resilient." The jury, diverse for once, leaned in. Elias followed, voice cracking on Derek's betrayal, how Tate weaponized family. "Love isn't the crime. Hiding it is." Joseph's turn gutted the room. He took the stand in his dress uniform, medals pinned, saluting the judge before speaking. "I fought for this country, lost friends, lost pieces of myself. My son fights too, every day." Harlan didn't mock a boy. He mocked America, the promise of liberty for all. He pulled the Tommy letter, reading aloud, "Joe, if they ask, say I'm straight, but know you're my north." Sobs echoed. Even the bailiff wiped his eyes. Tate, shackled, sneered from the defense table, but his fire dimmed, eyes hollow. Cross-examination dug. "You encourage deviance, Sergeant?" Tate's lawyer probed. Joseph met it head-on. "I encourage truth. That's the only deviance from fear." Verdicts came swift. Guilty on multiple counts. Harassment, evidence tampering, assault. Sentenced to 5 years. Tate was let out, head bowed, a man unmasked. Outside, reporters swarmed, but Anthony sought only Elias's arms, Joseph's hand on his back. "We did it," Elias whispered. "Not we," Anthony corrected. "All of us." The crowd, vets, kids, Mia's crew, cheered. A tapestry of triumph. Post-trial, life softened edges. Joseph's plant promoted him to supervisor, union cred burnished. Elias graduated night school, landing a sub-gig at the High. Anthony's art portfolio swelled, a gallery in Birmingham scouting his Pride Salute series, sketches of Joseph's hand mid-gesture. Elias's profile in firelight. Romance culminated in a quiet proposal, not rings, but promises. By the river at dusk, Elias knelt with a braided leather cord, rainbow beads woven in. "Marry me? Not legal here yet, but in our world." Anthony laughed through tears, tying it around Elias's wrist. "Yes, forever." Joseph, witnessing from afar, saluted again, subtle, paternal. The humanistic close. No grand tragedy, but a happy forged in fire, where betrayal yielded to belonging, conflict to community. Millwood wasn't paradise, but it was home. Queer, proud, unbroken. Yet echoes lingered, a reminder, vigilance eternal. As winter blanketed the pines, Anthony traced the cord on Elias's wrist, heart full, pride earned, love the ultimate salute. Winter wrapped Millwood in a hush, frost etching windows like lace, but warmth bloomed indoors, at the Ramirez table where Joseph, Anthony, and Elias gathered for tamales, steam rising like prayers. The trial's dust settled, Tate's absence a void filled by progress. A new sheriff, out and allied, vowing reforms. GSA murals on school walls, rainbows bold against brick. Anthony's days blurred into creation. Senior project, a mural for the VFW. Joseph's salute immortalized in vibrant strokes. Tommy's face a gentle ghost beside. Elias taught now, subbing history with stories of Stonewall slipped into lessons, kids leaning in like conspirators. Mr. Hayes, was Lincoln gay? One asked, and Elias grinned. History's full of closets. Your job? Kick 'em open. At home, he and Anthony built routines. Movie nights with Joseph, debating Philadelphia over popcorn. Lazy mornings tangled in sheets, whispers of dreams. Wedding in Atlanta, art shows, a life unapologetic. But depth demanded tending old wounds. Joseph started therapy at the VA, unpacking Nam's silos and Tommy's silence. One evening, session fresh, he handed Anthony a box. Isabella's journals, pages yellowed with sketches and sonnets. She wrote about you before you were born. Our little warrior, heart wide as the sky. Anthony traced her looping script, tears salting the ink. Elias read aloud, voice soft. Love letters to Joseph, dreams of a world kinder. She'd love this? Anthony said, and Joseph nodded, arm around them both. A triad, unconventional, unbreakable. Spring thawed secrets. Mia uncovered the manifesto's sender. Old VFW crony, Buck Harlan, Tate's uncle, shamed into confession by the trial's light. No charges, but a doorstep apology, hands trembling. Fear made me blind, boys. Joseph forgave publicly. At a reconciliation picnic, vets and families mingling under oaks. Hate's a chain, he toasted. Forgiveness the key. Anthony watched, Elias's hand in his, marveling at Grace's quiet power. Romance peaked in stolen escapes. A weekend in Birmingham, Joseph's truck loaned with a wink. They wandered civil rights trails, hand in hand at the church bombing site, history's weight lightened by shared steps. At a jazz club, saxophone wailing, Elias pulled Anthony close. This is us. Melody from Discord. Their dance was slow, bodies swaying, the cord on Elias's wrist brushing Anthony's skin. A talisman. Climax's afterglow brought unexpected bloom. Anthony's mural unveiled at the VFW gala. Crowd hushed as he spoke. This isn't just Dad's salute. It's yours, ours. For every hidden heart that's saluted in silence. Applause thundered, Joseph beaming, Elias tearing up. A scout from Atlanta's queer art collective approached. Scholarship offer, full ride. Choice loomed, but not alone. Over backyard barbecue, Joseph broached it. Go. Chase the light. His eyes twinkled. I'll visit. Bring tamales. Elias grinned. Road trips? Count me in. Graduation dawned humid. Cap and gown a milestone. Anthony walked the stage to cheers, diploma in hand, Elias wolf whistling from the bleachers. Post-ceremony under the oak by the library. Initials still carved. They exchanged vows impromptu. In shadows and sun, I choose you. Joseph's gift. A key to a Birmingham loft, co-signed. Roots stretch, son. They don't snap. Summer unfolded in farewells and hellos. Tate wrote from prison. Penitent. Therapy mandated. You freed me from my cage. Thank you. Anthony burned it but kept the lesson. Even villains human, redemption a path. As fall leaves turned, Anthony and Elias loaded the truck. Joseph saluting from the drive. Crisp, proud. Sergeant Ramirez. Dismissed to conquer. Anthony hugged him fierce, inhaling motor oil and resolve. Love you, Dad. North Star. The road to Atlanta hummed with possibility. Radio blasting, come as you are. Elias's hand on Anthony's thigh, city lights beckoning. Betrayal's scars faded to stories, conflict to character, the humanistic arc complete. A boy mocked, now man honored. A father shadowed, now illuminated. A love tested, now eternal. In the rear view, Millwood shrank, but its heart beat on in them. Pride not parade but pulse. Romantic, raw, redemptive. The salute echoed, a lifetime's grace. Epilogue whispers. Years on, Anthony's gallery show. Salutes. Draws crowds, Joseph's keynote beside. Elias teaches, their home a haven for runaways. And on quiet nights, they dance to Joan Baez, Isabella's spirit in the vinyl spin. Life, dramatic and tender, unfolds, one stand, one love at a time.